The Tissot PRX 40205 was released only last month in January of 2021. Getting it was quite difficult as it was out of stock at retailers all over, but I did manage to find one in stock. Like many other watches, this one rides the retro vintage reissue revival trend that we can see in the watch industry. It is pretty much identical to Tissot models from the late 70s, namely the Tissot C-Star 40250. I may be mistaken, but I think that's the model. And another one which was named PRX. The PRX stands for Precision, Robust, and the X stands for the 10 bar water resistance, 100 meters. So quickly going over the specs of this watch, the diameter is 40 millimeters, thickness is 10.4 millimeters, lug to lug without the end link is 40 millimeters. This is what Tissot mentions in their specs, but if you count in the integrated bracelet first link, then it's around 50 to 51 millimeters. I don't have calipers, so I can't tell you exactly, but it's something around that number, also according to other reviews and info on the net. So the lug to lug is quite long. The glass is flat sapphire. I don't see a lot of AR coating, but with the silver dial there aren't many reflections because of that, the nature of that dial. The movement is an ETA quartz model, F06.115. The bracelet is integrated, as I said. It's 316L stainless steel. In the weight, with all the links together, is 130 grams. So let's first address the elephant in the room. This is a quartz watch. This will probably veer some people away from the watch and pass on. For me personally, the quartz is the reason I bought it. As mentioned, this is a throwback to the late 70s Tissot models, which housed quartz movements and had integral bracelets. It reflects an era in which quartz was all the rage, part of the quartz crisis or revolution, if you want, that shocked the Swiss watch industry back in the 70s. Design-wise, the language here is that of the legendary designer Gerald Genta. In my eyes, it perfectly reflects the zeitgeist of the late 70s. One can reflect back on the Rolex Oyster quartz, for example. This is why I really like the PRX, because Tissot remained loyal to the source, and it feels as if they've traveled back to 1978 and revived the watch with the proper technology powering it, which is quartz. The internet is filled with requests from watch hobbyists pleading to Tissot to create an automatic version of this watch. This will indeed happen, Tissot confirmed, as the watch will release later in the autumn of this year with a Powermatic 80 movement. The finishing on the PRX is, to me, one of its most impressive features. A satin brushed finish stretching all throughout the bracelet and into the case itself, which can be viewed clearly and appreciated on top of the case between the dial and the sloping of the bracelet. There is a very nice chamfer, poly chamfer, that borders between the side of the case to the top of it, a sight to behold. The case itself is sorry if I'm butchering it, it's tunnel, barrel shape, and its dial is surrounded by a polished bezel that creates a perfect circle. The PRX doesn't really have lugs, as it integrates into the bracelet directly. The bracelet itself is great. Built of age links, it plays wonderfully with the sun, very reflective, which also makes it a little blingy, but blingy with class. It begins at 27 millimeters, where it integrates with the case, then tapers down elegantly to 18 millimeters, where it meets a butterfly clasp but closes from both sides with two pushers, with a little click mechanism. The links are held by simple push pins, which are simple to resize using basic tools. The clasp doesn't have micro adjust holes, but there are many links, including two health links, which can be removed, something which I believe will make for a good fit for pretty much anybody. I personally removed 4 links, 2 from each side, and believe I got a great fit on my 7-inch wrist. But there's a problem. 50 or 51 millimeters lug to lug for a watch with an integrated bracelet is just too much. This brings me to my main problem with this watch. It's in my opinion, too big to succeed. The diameter of the watch is 40 millimeters, which was frowned upon by some. I think that a diameter of 37, 38 millimeters would suit the watch much more. But 40 millimeters still could work for some. It seems as if Tissot were looking for the right bridge between a cool retro watch and the modern watch and found it at 40 millimeters. This connects to the watch's lug to lug, which in theory is 44 millimeters, but in practice it's 50 or 51 millimeters, as mentioned before. This is because the first link of the bracelet, the end link, is not articulating. So it doesn't just fall over, it remains steady in its place. There's a nice there's sloping, but the sloping doesn't create enough an effect that makes it wear smaller. And this is one of the big disappointments in the PRX for me. I think that it fails at its size and its height. I think that you can't really pull it off with a wrist which is less than 7 inch. For reference, I also mentioned my wrist is 7 inch and I feel that I can pull it off, but the dimensions are just too much for this type of watch, for this type of style that they wanted to take. Let's discuss one strong point of this watch, aside for the bracelet and the case and the finishing, the dial. They say that the eyes are the window to the soul, and in this case, the dial is the window to this watch's soul. And this watch's soul, thinking about some James Brown song. This soul presents itself in vertical brushing pattern on the dial, which seems linen. The hands and indices are rose gold, something which in my eyes blends nicely with the gentleness of the dial. The hands are legible and the minute hand reaches right up to the minute markers. And on my piece the second hand hits the markers almost precisely. The design of the dial is quite minimalistic. We have Tissot's modern logo at 12 o'clock, followed by 1853, the year in which the company was founded. At 6 o'clock we have the letters PRX, and we have Swiss made at the bottom. The indexes are applied, and at 3 o'clock we find a non-frame date window. This, in my opinion, works less nicely in the black and blue models that are existent for this watch, but it doesn't disrupt the aesthetic flow in the silver dial. The dial is protected by flat sapphire crystal, which, as I said, doesn't have a lot of air coating, but in this specific model, because it's a silver dial, you won't have a lot of problems with reflections when you want to show the world how nice your watch is. There is some lume on the hands and hour markers, but it's really not substantial. I mean, it's not psycho lume. Don't buy this watch if lume is really important for you. The movement, there's not much to say about it. It's an ETA F06.115. I won't delve into technical specs because frankly I don't understand in them that much. I'll just say that it has, of course, hacking seconds. So when you pull the crown to set the time, the seconds stop, so you can set it exactly as you want with at the 0 and the 60 seconds full lap. And it has an end of life indication, so when the watch the battery, which is the Renata 371, when it reaches the near the end of its life, then it starts making 2 jumps. So maybe it's different in this specific movement, but I think it might be similar with all quartz watches. It just, you know that the watch needs a new battery. The accuracy is supposedly plus or minus 10 or 15 seconds per month. So, closing thoughts, summary. If you've been following my channel, you probably know that I am almost exclusively a diver watches person. But something about the Tissot PRX just grabbed hold of me and did not let go. Maybe it's the super cool retro design, the nostalgic throwback, the Genta effect, the accurate grab and go quartz movement, or the awesome integrated bracelet, or the beautiful silver dial. Whatever it is, I think this is a fun, easy to wear watch that doesn't take itself too seriously. I'm pretty sure that it will prove to be a hit for Tissot this year, and better yet when they release the automatic versions with the Powermatic 80 movement. However, personally for me, I think that it's just too big and high for its own good. A smaller version would be perfect. I think that if you have a wrist which is smaller than 7 inch, which is around 17.8 centimeters, then you should really consider trying wearing this watch in a shop before purchasing it, or ordering it blindly on the net. Personally, I ordered it on the net, and again, as I said, I can pull it off. It doesn't overhang on my wrist, but I feel that it should have been smaller. If you have a larger wrist, then maybe you can fully enjoy this watch. And again, if you have a smaller wrist, if you have the smallest wrist in the world, but you like this watch, then it doesn't matter what I say or what others think. If you like it, at the end, the watch hobby is about what you like. It doesn't it doesn't matter if someone else thinks that it's funny or it doesn't suit you. The thing that counts the most is if you're happy with the watch and if it makes you feel full. And if it does, then that's what matters. So that's it for the Tissot PRX. I hope I didn't miss anything. I appreciate you watching and following my channel. And if you have any questions or any comments, feedback, I'll be happy to hear it in the comment section down below. So stay safe and see you soon.